Welcome to Sense Talking the Space, where truth doesn't tiptoe and headlines get questioned before they're swallowed whole. Today, we're stepping into something that might make you uncomfortable, and that's the point. We're embarking on a deep dive into the ongoing wave of, well, very serious allegations, and the intense public discourse surrounding Sean Combs, the figure known widely as Diddy, Puff Daddy, or Love. Now, let's be crystal clear up front. Our mission today is explicitly not about declaring innocence or guilt for anyone involved here. Instead, it's about rigorously asking those uncomfortable questions that many, frankly, shy away from, especially concerning the complex and often pretty brutal ways society and, digital platforms process accusations, dispense judgment, and ultimately reshape public perception. To navigate this really intricate landscape, we've gathered a substantial stack of sources. We're talking investigative articles, reported testimonies, legal filings, and some pretty incisive societal observations. From all this material, we'll be extracting crucial insights into how we collectively react when prominent public figures face such profound accusations, what those reactions reveal about our own values, and maybe more importantly, the wider implications for all of us living in this hyper-connected digital age. So yeah, prepare to unpack some challenging ideas. Okay, let's try and unpack this intricate situation. We're watching a truly unprecedented phenomenon unfold with Sean Combs. Our sources describe nothing short of a tsunami of allegations that has just cracked over him, altering his public image, well, seemingly overnight. These claims span a wide and deeply disturbing range, from abuse to trafficking. Some are incredibly serious, others may be more speculative, but all of them profoundly disturbing. We've seen this cascade of events, initial lawsuits, then subsequent legal filings, public testimonies emerging, all of it coalescing to trigger what our sources rightly call a cultural earthquake.
Yeah, an earthquake. That feels right. It's an upheaval that definitely extends far beyond just the entertainment industry.
Right. I mean, for decades, Diddy has been this omnipresent force, right? At the very pinnacle of music, fashion, business, a titan who built an empire. The sheer volume, the gravity, the intensity of these claims have undeniably and perhaps irrevocably reshaped how people see him.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just another celebrity scandal. It feels like, a pivotal moment in how we collectively witness, participate in, and even demand the public downfall of a figure who seemed, well, unassailable.
Absolutely. And the speed at which these accusations have been amplified, dissected, and seemingly cemented as truth in the public mind is frankly astounding. And what's truly fascinating and maybe deeply concerning here is the profound impact of this digital amplification you mentioned.
Yeah.
While Sean Combs has, through his legal team, issued firm denials of these claims, our sources highlight a critical and honestly often chilling reality of our current era. In the digital age, denials often mean nothing.
That's powerful. Mean nothing.
Think about that for a second. Historically, right, a denial was the first step. A legal or PR defense required careful consideration, rebuttal. But today, the sheer velocity and volume of information, or maybe more accurately, allegations spreading online, means denials are frequently just drowned out, dismissed. Or they simply never get the same viral traction as the initial accusation.
Yeah, the accusation is stickier.
Exactly. And this points to a fundamental and frankly rather chilling shift in how we approach justice collectively. Our traditional systems, they've historically valued and demanded due process.
Right, that slow, methodical process.
Yes, a careful, methodical, evidence-based legal journey through established courts built on principles like, the presumption of innocence. But what we're witnessing is a stark deviation, a shift to what our sources starkly call digital execution.
Wow, digital execution.
It's strong language, but it captures something real. This isn't just a slight tweak to the legal landscape. It feels like a complete paradigm shift. The public square, which is now basically social media platforms, has effectively usurped the traditional role of the courtroom. The very algorithms designed for engagement often prioritize emotionally charged content. So outrage, even if it's unverified, spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
It creates this reality where the accusation itself, once it's amplified, becomes the verdict in the court of public opinion, long before any formal legal proceedings can really even start.
And here's where it gets particularly striking, I think. A point our sources underline with real force. The idea that the streets of Twitter, now formerly known as X, are louder than the halls of justice.
That's a good line.
It is, isn't it? And it's not just a clever phrase. It really encapsulates this profound and, frankly, disturbing shift in power and influence. For centuries, the halls of justice, with their big buildings and deliberate pace, they symbolized a measured approach, a place where evidence was supposed to be meticulously weighed, testimony rigorously scrutinized, legal arguments debated, before a judgment, if any, was carefully rendered.
Signed to be slow,
Yeah,
deliberate.
exactly, to minimize error. But now it feels like that entire methodical journey is being sidestepped, or at least massively overshadowed, by the immediate, often impulsive, and rarely reversible judgments of the online collective.
Right. A hashtag forms in minutes.
A narrative gets crafted and spread globally. And a reputation built over decades can be, well, irrevocably shattered in hours. Long before grand jury is even convened or evidence properly assessed, the court of public opinion just operates on a completely different set of rules, or like no rules at all.
And this phenomenon, it raises an incredibly important and complex question for all of us, really. Not just about Diddy, but for anyone who might face public scrutiny. What are the long-term implications when public opinion, amplified exponentially by the sheer scale and speed of social media, so thoroughly overshadows or even bypasses traditional legal processes?
Yeah, what are they?
Well, we're witnessing a scenario where, as our sources put it so powerfully, social media, it's already passed judgment, often definitively, even before actual courts can even begin to weigh all the evidence, let alone assess if it's true. This phenomenon is vividly, and maybe controversially, described as a digital lynching.
That's incredibly strong language.
It is, but it arguably captures the severity and the irreversible nature of what can happen. It's not just about public shaming or ridicule. It involves real, far-reaching, tangible consequences. Things like being wiped out from platforms, dropped from brand deals, his home raided, and his narrative hijacked.
Right, the practical consequences are huge. Losing platforms, that's losing your voice, your business. Brand deals, that's financial ruin potentially.
Exactly. And the public nature of these allegations, coupled with that immediate widespread belief online, means that even if a court later finds no fault, the damage to one's reputation, legacy, it's often already done, permanently etched into the digital record in many cases.
So it's punishment outside the legal system.
Precisely. Driven by collective sentiment, often emotionally charged, rather than, evidentiary standards.
So given this stark reality, what does this all mean for you, the listener? How do you interpret news and these high-profile allegations in this rapidly evolving information landscape? How much weight do you personally give to, say, trending hashtags or those emotionally charged viral videos or widely shared social media posts versus the more formal, often slower legal proceedings and their conclusions?
It's a key question for media literacy today.
It really is. This isn't just academic. It's about your own critical thinking, your personal responsibility in shaping these narratives. When you see a prominent figure under intense fire, do you immediately join the chorus, maybe fueled by the sheer volume of claims? Or do you pause, take a breath, and consciously consider, okay, where is this information coming from? What's the broader context? And maybe, what about those principles of justice, like innocence until proven guilty? Our sources really challenge us to recognize the immense, often unchecked power these digital spaces now wield, and how easily we, as individuals, can become unwitting participants in a process that bypasses established rights and procedures.
It definitely compels us to look inward, evaluate our own biases, maybe that impulse to condemn, especially when a narrative is compelling, easy to digest, and maybe aligns with perceptions we already hold.
Yeah, it urges us to consider the real implications of our clicks and shares. Okay, moving on. This next part is truly uncomfortable, I think, but it's a vital question presented in our sources, and one that echoes loudly in almost every high-profile accusation like this. It's this. If these stories about abuse, manipulation, fear were true back then, why are we only hearing them now?
The timing question. Always complex.
It really is. It's the proverbial elephant in the room for many people, right? And it demands thoughtful, nuanced consideration. The sheer volume and sort of synchronized emergence of many of these allegations against Sean Combs raises legitimate questions about the catalyst. Why this particular moment?
Exactly. It compels us to examine that whole intricate web. Motivations, circumstances, opportunities, what influences when and how survivors choose to speak out. And maybe more controversially, when and how others might choose to capitalize on a moment of public vulnerability. And the sources critically pose this very pointed question. It's a challenging one. Why did people who worked closely with Diddy artists, assistants, collaborators, longtime associates wait until the moment was viral before they found their voice?
It's a tough question.
It is, and it forces us to examine motivations and those complex power dynamics in an industry like entertainment. Historically, silence around powerful figures, well, it can often be attributed to genuine fear.
Sure. Fear of repercussions, blacklisting.
Absolutely. Career annihilation, even physical harm in some extreme cases.
Yeah.
When someone holds that much power, financial and cultural, the stakes for speaking out are incredibly high.
No doubt.
However, our sources compel us to consider another facet, maybe less palatable. The opportunism that can arise when a public figure's reputation starts to visibly crumble.
The kick 'em while they're down idea.
Sort of. When the tide of public opinion definitively turns, previously unvoiced claims, maybe long-held grievances, even personal resentments, can suddenly find a receptive audience. And crucially, a highly amplified platform for attention and sometimes, potential gain.
So it complicates things. It doesn't automatically discredit anything, but it adds a layer.
Exactly. It acknowledges the complex human factors, including self-interest, that are almost always at play in these situations.
And some of those individuals, let's not pretend otherwise, have built followings, established careers, and launched brands in the time since. The sources make a very clear pragmatic point here. They benefited significantly from being in Diddy's orbit, from being invited to the yacht parties, the exclusive brunches, the high-profile Billboard awards, the private studio sessions.
Right. The proximity had value.
Immense value. And this observation isn't meant to invalidate their stories or suggest bad intentions, but it adds crucial context to their long-term association. For years, many were an active part of his world, gaining visibility, networking, often direct or indirect financial benefits from that bad boy empire connection. The allure of that access, being connected to someone that powerful, often meant maybe overlooking, tolerating, or just navigating situations that, in hindsight, might seem unacceptable.
Sure.
So this long period of benefiting, followed by this sudden public torrent of revelations, it definitely complicates the narrative. It legitimately prompts questions about the shifting landscape of incentives.
And this complex reality leads to a really piercing question posed by our sources, one that cuts right to the heart of the matter and demands some reflection. So I ask, were they scared or just silent because silence was still paying?
Oof, that's blunt.
It is blunt. And this challenging question isn't presented to discredit any claims at all or to imply fear wasn't real. Fear is often very real.
Of course.
Instead, it's meant to add that crucial layer of necessary scrutiny to the timing. It forces us, as observers, to confront the uncomfortable possibility that while genuine terror is a powerful deterrent, so too can be the very tangible benefits of staying silent within a lucrative, powerful ecosystem.
So the advantages of staying connected might have outweighed speaking out sooner for some.
Our sources suggest that possibility, that for some, maybe the personal and professional advantages, the access, opportunities, financial stability, simply outweighed the impetus to speak out earlier. It's challenging because it pushes us beyond a simple victim-perpetrator narrative into the much messier reality of human relationships, power dynamics, and individual self-interest.
It definitely demands more critical thinking than just an immediate emotional reaction. Of course, and this is so important, in this sensitive discussion, we absolutely must acknowledge the inherent complexity of trauma itself. Our sources are very clear on this vital point. Trauma is complicated. Victims often stay quiet for years, sometimes decades. That's a fundamental, undisputed reality.
Absolutely crucial nuance. Cannot be overstated.
Right. The psychological impact of abuse. Fear of not being believed, shame, self-blame, potential retaliation, just the immense difficulty of reliving it can keep victims silent for incredibly long periods.
We see it time and time again.
Exactly. Countless examples, documented studies, survivors taking years, decades to come forward, often only when they feel safe, empowered, or maybe when a specific opportunity arises.
So the timing for any individual could genuinely just be about their personal healing journey, finding their voice. Finally feeling secure.
Yes, but we absolutely have to hold space for that legitimate reality.
However, and this is where the sources push for a balanced perspective, they immediately follow that crucial acknowledgement with an equally important counterpoint. They urge a comprehensive view. But in a media climate where every claim becomes content and every trauma becomes traffic, we also have to question timing.
Okay, so they're not dismissing delayed trauma, but pointing to the media landscape.
Precisely. They're pointing out that the current media environment, driven by the attention economy, has introduced new, powerful variables. They suggest the recent surge could also be, at least in part, a well-timed media strategy.
That's provocative, implying a deliberate calculation.
It is provocative.
Yeah.
It asks us to consider the possibility that, quote, there aren't just emotions, there are podcasts, book deals, and docuseries on the table once the narrative becomes profitable.
Right, the market for these stories is huge and lucrative.
Immense. A dramatic, high-profile story, especially involving a cultural icon, can translate into significant financial and reputational gains for those who tell it, or those who facilitate its telling.
So it doesn't negate the truth of an experience.
Not necessarily. But it does add complexity to the motivations around the timing of public disclosures. It asks us to consider if the current cultural moment maybe incentivizes or even inadvertently exploits the sharing of traumatic experiences for broader consumption, and whether that profit motive can influence the when of a story emerging.
And we see specific examples cited in our sources that arguably complicate this even further. Individuals like Cassie came forward. Mace has been vocally critical. Day 26 members have dropped comments here and there, all sharing their perspectives. But our sources highlight a striking, kind of uncomfortable observation that makes you pause. Many of them kept coming back.
Kept coming back how?
They participated in shows, studio sessions, reunions, reality TV appearances, even years after the alleged damage.
Okay, so not just a fleeting encounter, sustained association.
Right. Sometimes long-term association, years after the alleged incidents. It undeniably challenges the common understanding of how victims typically distance themselves from alleged abusers, especially if the trauma is severe.
If the harm was so profound, why maintain that proximity? Why keep participating in the very empire that allegedly caused the harm and from which they apparently continued to benefit?
Exactly. It's a question that naturally arises when you look at the full spectrum of their interactions over time. It speaks to the messy realities of power, maybe dependence, human coping mechanisms. It's complex.
And this specific, repeated observation raises that incredibly important question that needs careful, non-judgmental consideration. If someone knew something, then if someone genuinely felt harmed, then why didn't they act then? Especially when, as the sources point out, many of these individuals continued working with him, attending his parties, posting him for clout, leveraging his connections for their own careers.
This feels like a central theme in the sources inquiry.
It really is. It forces us to carefully consider that often blurry line between genuine, long-suppressed revelation and what might for some be a more strategically timed revelation.
Again, not victim blaming.
Absolutely not. It's about understanding the full, complex context. If individuals maintain professional and personal ties, collaborated, even leveraged the connection for their own gain for years after alleged harm, it presents a deeply complex picture.
That makes you ask what changed now.
Exactly. What confluence of factors or opportunities prompted these revelations now, so publicly, sometimes seemingly coordinated? Is it newfound courage? A new sense of safety? Or is it, perhaps, a newfound opportunity aligned with the shifting public tide against Diddy, where silent voices might now find a more receptive, even rewarding audience?
It challenges us to look beyond simple binary explanations, grapple with the messiness of human behavior, motives, power, fear, self-interest, all tangled up. So for you, the listener, what does this imply about the narratives you consume, particularly those involving high-profile accusations? How do you weigh the legitimacy, the motivations behind a claim when its timing seems to align or could align with potential financial or reputational gain for the accuser?
It's not about dismissing claims, it's about critical engagement.
Right. Developing the discernment to ask these uncomfortable but necessary questions yourself, rather than just accepting every narrative at face value, especially when the stakes are so incredibly high for everyone involved.
It encourages you to consider that whole ecosystem: media, celebrity, personal gain, public sentiment, recognizing that even legitimate grievances can sometimes be presented within a broader strategic framework.
Yeah. Understanding that the truth is often far more multifaceted, far more nuanced, and far more challenging to discern than a simple headline suggests. And that motives, even when tangled with genuine pain, are almost always complex. Okay, here's where our deep dive truly gets uncomfortable, maybe even more so than discussing timing. It's this uncomfortable mirror held up to us, revealing the idea of selective morality.
Ah, yes. This one often stings.
It does. Our sources push us to confront this directly, asking a really searing question. When does morality become selective? When does it start looking like a strategy for certain segments of society rather than a genuine, consistent reckoning with wrongdoing?
It targets not just the individuals in the case, but all of us, society as a whole.
Exactly. It challenges our collective conscience, the perceived consistency of our ethics. We often publicly proclaim zero tolerance for certain behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm. We say we do.
But our actions, our collective memory, our willingness to forgive, they frequently contradict those declarations. It leads to this starkly inconsistent application of moral judgment depending on who is accused, who is accusing, and maybe why it serves a particular narrative.
It forces us to acknowledge a potential deeply ingrained hypocrisy in how we hand out public punishment and grant public forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we undeniably see a striking, persistent pattern in how society treats different figures who faced incredibly serious accusations. Our sources explicitly draw these stark comparisons to Diddy's current situation, highlighting what looks like a profound double standard.
Like who? What examples do they give?
They point out, we largely forgave Dr. Dre. We continue to quote Chris Brown, and he maintains a massive career. Elvis Presley still gets unquestioning airtime, his legacy largely untarnished by historical accusations. Roman Polanski continues to receive critical acclaim and Oscar nods overseas, despite his serious legal history.
Okay, so Dre, Brown, Elvis, Polanski.
Right. And this isn't about relitigating their past actions. It's about dispassionately observing a historical, ongoing pattern of differential treatment. How society processes and ultimately either condemns or accepts figures who faced serious allegations, sometimes even legal convictions.
So Dre, despite admitted past violence, remains revered. Brown, documented domestic violence, still tops charts. Elvis, troubling history often overlooked. Polanski, convicted, still acclaimed.
Pretty much. The uncomfortable question becomes, why do these individuals, despite very serious issues, maintain a certain level of acceptance, even reverence, while others face what seems like immediate, total, unforgiving cancellation?
But for Diddy, our sources highlight this stark, almost immediate contrast. A successful black billionaire, he gets buried under the sheer weight of every accusation and speculation, with seemingly no benefit of a pause, no presumption of innocence afforded in the court of public opinion.
That observation really underscores a potential, deeply troubling bias at play.
It seems like it. While those other examples faced accusations, some convicted, the public reaction, the speed of their perceived cancellation, the endurance of their careers, it feels markedly different from Diddy's situation.
There's an intensity, a swiftness, a totality to the judgment against him that makes you ask if factors beyond the allegations themselves are involved.
Yeah, it feels like an immediate demolition, not a cautious deliberation. And this pattern of swift condemnation, while common now, seems applied with maybe disproportionate force here, raising questions about implicit biases.
Which leads us to an incredibly important and perhaps the most uncomfortable question our sources courageously pose for societal reflection. What is it about Diddy, his immense power, his blackness, his undeniable bravado, his self-made empire that made him so seemingly easy to throw under the bus, so quickly condemned before a legal verdict?
Again, not excusing any alleged behavior.
Absolutely not. It's about critically examining the societal lens we use to view and judge people, especially those who challenge norms or hold significant independent power. Our sources suggest that what we're watching with Diddy feels less like a dispassionate pursuit of justice and more like a cleansing.
A cleansing.
Yeah. Not just of him as an individual, but of a narrative that perhaps people never truly liked in the first place. The image of a black billionaire with seemingly too much control. A man who transformed artists into global stars, but consistently kept the ultimate spotlight, and perhaps the lion's share of the profits, on himself.
So the idea is his downfall might satisfy some pre-existing discomfort or resentment about his success, his power, his persona.
That's what implies, that maybe a collective, almost cathartic dismantling of a figure that wasn't entirely comfortable for everyone is finding an outlet now, potentially overriding principles like due process.
And our sources also point out a compelling, often forgotten counter-narrative. Noting moments when Diddy was seen very positively, making significant contributions, they ask a pointed question. When Diddy donated millions to historically black colleges, when he reportedly paid artists hospital bills, when he launched Revolt TV with the explicit mission to empower black voices and narratives, where were these accusers?
That's a fair point to raise for context.
Right. Many were silent. Many were benefiting from his ecosystem. Many were smiling in photos alongside him. Again, this isn't to erase or diminish the current allegations.
But to present a fuller picture.
Exactly, a more complex picture of a multifaceted person and his long history. It reminds us he's also been a significant, often philanthropic force, particularly in the Black community. Investing, providing opportunities, using his platform for advocacy.
Yet during those times, the voices now accusing were often silent, sometimes actively benefiting.
Which starkly highlights the selective nature of public outrage, collective memory, and the narratives we choose to amplify or suppress.
And this brings us back to that deeper look into our collective conscience, reinforcing the theme of selective morality. Are we truly okay with people waiting to speak only when there's something substantial to gain from speaking, when the public narrative shifts and the profit motive aligns with their revelation?
It's a question for us as consumers of media, participants in public discourse.
Definitely. It challenges us to hold ourselves accountable for the narratives we amplify, the standards we apply. It pushes against that romanticized idea that all revelations are purely about justice or trauma.
It urges us to consider the real human incentives, positive and negative, that influence when and how information comes out.
Right. If society only listens or even rewards revelations when they fit a convenient, maybe profitable narrative, what does that say about our commitment to justice versus our appetite for sensationalism and drama? It's a challenging mirror held up to our own biases, our motivations, our selective outrage.
So after exploring all these complex layers, what does this mean for you, the listener, in your everyday life consuming news? Do you recognize instances of selective outrage in other public discussions? Think beyond celebrities' politics, social issues, local controversies, maybe?
It happens everywhere, doesn't it?
It seems to. And how do your own biases, conscious or unconscious, influence who you're willing to give grace or forgiveness to, and who you're quick to condemn with certainty?
This isn't just about Diddy. It's about broader patterns of human judgment, societal double standards, the sway of groupthink.
It encourages you to examine your own immediate reactions. Are you more inclined to believe accusations against certain types of people? Do you apply different moral yardsticks depending on who's involved or what narrative feels more satisfying?
This deep dive really urges you to consider the personal and societal implications of selective morality and how easily it can distort our collective pursuit of true, equitable justice.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's talk about what our sources argue is the absolute core principle that should guide all of us in these complex, emotionally charged situations. And it starts here. We should never protect abusers. Let me say that again because it is paramount, it is non-negotiable. We should never protect abusers.
Absolutely fundamental.
If verifiable abuse has occurred, it must be exposed. Those responsible must be held accountable through legitimate ethical means. There's no moral ambiguity here. The safety and well-being of victims must be the priority. Their experiences heard, acknowledged, addressed properly.
And this is the absolutely critical distinction our sources emphasize with unwavering clarity. What we should protect is due process.
Due process, okay.
The sources issue a stark warning. Once you strip that away, all it takes to destroy someone is a trending hashtag.
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. Because due process isn't just some legal formality, some tedious hurdle. It's a fundamental safeguard, a bedrock principle of justice designed meticulously to ensure fairness, accuracy, protection against wrongful conviction or arbitrary punishment.
It ensures accusations are investigated properly.
Yes. Impartially investigated, evidence presented, cross-examined, challenged, and a conclusion reached based on verifiable facts, not just public sentiment or online reaction. Our sources put it chillingly clearly. Guilt is a conclusion. Allegation is a beginning. We've profoundly confused the two.
That's a powerful distinction. Allegation is the start, guilt is the end result of a process.
Exactly. An allegation is just a claim, a starting point, a hypothesis to test. Guilt is the definitive, legally established outcome of a rigorous, impartial process where the burden of proof is met.
And when we confuse them?
We undermine justice itself. We open the door to a system where reputations, livelihoods, entire lives can be destroyed based on unproven claims just because they go viral and generate outrage.
And the consequences of this confusion, as our sources clearly illustrate through Diddy's case, they're dire, immediate, often irreversible. Diddy has already been, as they describe it, digitally lynched, wiped out from platforms, dropped from lucrative brand deals, his home raided, and his narrative hijacked by external forces.
These aren't minor setbacks.
No, they're devastating blows. A de facto conviction and severe punishment delivered not by a court but by the public sphere, often before any legal verdict is reached. His ability to earn a living, his image, his empire, his life's work. Severely, maybe irrevocably damaged. The sources then pose this profound, uncomfortable question for all of us. Is that truly justice? Or is it merely performance?
Performance, like a public spectacle.
Yeah, a satisfying spectacle of public shaming that feels like justice but lacks its fundamental principles. It challenges us. Or are collective actions online truly serving genuine accountability and fairness? Or are they just a cathartic public display, a hunger for swift retribution without the principles of fairness, impartiality, due process that should underpin a just society?
Is the goal real accountability through systems, or just the immediate gratifying spectacle of condemnation? And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we can clearly see the incredibly high stakes for any individual caught in this digital crossfire, regardless of guilt or innocence. Our sources state it starkly, a real sobering reality check. Whether Diddy is ultimately found guilty or innocent in a court of law is still being worked through within the judicial system. But what's already happened, his legacy is, in the public eye, largely irreversible.
Wow. So even if found innocent later, the damage is done.
That's the tragic, often overlooked consequence of digital execution outside traditional justice. Hypothetically, even if found innocent of all charges legally, the public perception, fueled by viral accusations, immediate belief, swift cancellation, it will likely never fully recover.
His name forever associated with the claims. Achievements overshadowed.
Exactly. A digital stain no legal exoneration can entirely erase. It highlights the immense, often destructive power of public opinion when it operates outside the slower, deliberate, evidence-based mechanisms of justice. It forces us to confront that in the digital age, a person can be convicted and punished by the public long before a judicial process even begins or concludes.
Which leads us to a crucial ethical question we need to ask ourselves as a society. Our sources challenge us. Do we, as a collective, truly allow people to grow beyond their past?
Or is forgiveness conditional?
Right. Or do we only allow that when it's convenient for us, when it fits our preferred narrative, or when the individual in question aligns with our values? This probes our capacity for forgiveness, redemption, rehabilitation.
In a world where every past mistake, questionable decision, unproven allegation is instantly searchable, amplified, permanently recorded, do we leave any room for human fallibility, for change, for the possibility of being wrongly accused?
Or do we operate under this strict, unforgiving digital ledger, marking people permanently, selectively applying mercy only when it suits us, or when we already like the person?
It's a question not just for Diddy or celebrities, but for anyone who might one day face such intense, unforgiving public scrutiny. And this raises that incredibly important question for how we navigate these complex moral and legal landscapes going forward. Look, while we unequivocally want to believe the victims, and it's absolutely essential, we must create space for them to come forward and be heard without fear.
Non-negotiable.
Right. A foundational principle we can't compromise is the impartial, diligent pursuit of truth through established, fair processes. Our sources caution us to remember a vital distinction. Justice is not vengeance, and timing in complex scenarios often reveals motive.
Justice versus vengeance, that's key.
It is. Genuine justice seeks fairness, accountability, truth based on evidence through a process respecting rights. Vengeance, often driven by raw emotion, desire for retribution, hunger for public punishment, often bypassing due process.
And when timing seems aligned with potential gain, or a narrative becomes profitable,
it necessitates scrutiny. Not to discredit victims, but to ensure the pursuit of justice remains pure, untainted by other agendas, focused solely on truth. Our sources urge us to resist that powerful urge to simplify complex people and situations. Diddy might not be the hero some once imagined him to be, but he also might not be the singular monster the media is now so relentlessly painting him as.
We need to wait for the process.
Until the courts decide, until all evidence is laid bare, thoroughly examined and properly adjudicated, we must steadfastly resist the urge to simplify a very complex man with a complex history into a simplistic, sensational headline. It's a profound call for intellectual humility, for patience, for a commitment to nuanced understanding. Withhold definitive judgment until the legal process runs its course. Acknowledge the complexity, the dangers of binary thinking.
So for you, the listener, this entire deep dive, it really is a profound call to critical thinking, a challenge to your own assumptions, your biases. What is the true long-term cost to society when that fundamental presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of our legal system, is completely lost, drowned out, overwritten in the relentless echo chamber of the digital world?
What precedent does it set?
Exactly. What dangerous precedent does it set for anyone, not just celebrities, when accusations, rather than proven facts from due process, become the sole basis for widespread condemnation and effective punishment?
It's a fundamental question about the kind of justice system we want, the kind of society we want to live in.
One based on the measured rule of law and evidence, or one governed by impulsive, often unforgiving, viral outrage and public shaming? Lots to think about. Hashtag tag outro. This has been Sense Talking, where we don't chase clout, we chase context.
We really hope this deep dive challenged you to think differently, not necessarily about Diddy as a man, but about these profound concepts of justice, the intricate complexities of timing, and how easily we all, in this digital age, can fall into that trap of digital rage without pausing to ask that crucial, uncomfortable question. What if, in our haste to judge, we're actually wrong?
If anything we discussed resonated with you, if it made you think or even feel something, whether you agree or not, please share this deep dive with someone who values critical thought. Read it, and crucially, keep talking sense in your own circles. Until next time, stay smart, stay skeptical, and stay talking sense. Do subscribe to Sense Talking for more fairness and more. Thanks.